Your hair looks fine.
I hate it being this long.
So get it cut.
I need to get your hair cutter's number because your hair cutter does a great job. Look at this. Look at the burns.
Hey.
Thank you.
Beautiful,
I think I have her card in my wallet.
Oh my gosh, we're doing the card handoff on podcast.
Yeah.
He goes, oh my gosh.
Let's see. Yep. That's her number. All right.
Amazing.
Take that.
Nice. I got it.
Give a little take a photo. Because
Yeah.
I'm so bad with business cards. I need
same.
pictures of everything or I'll lose it.
Yeah.
I just have this one pocket in my wallet that I keep all the business cards in. I just stuff them in there. And my wallet looks super fat, but it's an illusion. I've got no money. It's all business cards.
See, I've got most of my business cards at home, but the few business cards that I do have, you gotta represent yourself.
Oh.
Little front action, little back headshot.
It's a fedora.
The fedora. Oh
Fedora
god.
shots a couple years back. I actually like them. They look good, but they're very specific.
Yeah, it looks like Glee kid.
Yeah.
Kid in the Glee club. That's the character type.
Yeah.
And that's what you missed.
On Glee.
And that's what you missed on Glee. All right, but this week on the Packcast, we have special guest Olivia Grady.
Yay!
Give it up for Olivia Grady, everyone. Welcome to the Packcast.
Well, thank you so much.
For those that don't know, I'm Logan Riley Bruner.
I'm Jacob Wade.
And as announced,
I'm Olivia Grady.
Yeah.
welcome to the podcast, Olivia. We're so happy to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. This is literally my first podcast that I've been a guest on.
I love that.
Amazing.
Ever.
Have you ever hosted one?
Oh, I have. I have hosted a few. I have a podcast with my friend Hodge, and we, over quarantine, were really kind of pumping out episodes, but then the world started getting back to normal. Maybe, we don't know. And so now we're kind of grinding and moving and shaking, but we definitely want to get back on there soon. But yeah, I definitely have hosted many a podcast episodes, which is fun. It's fun too.
Well, now this week, instead of the interviewer, you've become the interviewee.
I have. Thank you guys for popping my cherry.
Of course. Well, first things first, do you want to just talk a little bit about like how you know us, and then we'll get into a little bit of housekeeping, and then we can just get to chatting.
Yeah, this is so funny because you've asked me this before, and I'm still not completely sure how I became involved with Blackwolves, but I know you guys from very different things. Jacob and I, we were scene partners in an acting class. I played his mom, which never have I ever literally played someone's mom. So that was a big deal for me. Logan, we met doing an arts management class final project.
We met in the class, but we became close doing that project.
Yeah, there was one I remember too, because I came out of this class and we were having some sort of heated debate or some sort of argument about audiences and demographics when it comes to Broadway.
Yeah.
And you said something that I guess hit some sort of nerve with me, because you were like, yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know. You were saying something about the type of people who can afford to come to Broadway shows and how they were going. And I was like, yeah, but it doesn't mean it's right. And you're like, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying that's what the thing is. And I was like,
I'm talking about what happened to the world. I'm not trying to support it.
I was walking out of class, walking out.
Theater should be more accessible.
This old crotchety woman that I am. So that was how we met. And then Logan and I worked on a show together in very different mediums. I was acting and he was sound designing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess sort of through the grapevine and through the groups of the major that we were in, it kind of just so nicely fell into place and got wrapped with a nice little bow.
I love that. You also did DNA with us recently, which was
yes,
a blast.
That was awesome, guys. That was literally awesome, because I just it was so strange because it's a play, but we had filmed it and kind of you guys morphed it and edited it together to make it this kind of film, and it was so cool to see how we could merge the two mediums together. I thought that was so cool, and it came out so good. I thought,
There you go.
I'm glad.
Man, that was Honestly, a great experience. I feel like this past year, so many people have like merged the two mediums and done theater as on screen.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's also nuts how like Ivo Van Ho did that like that crossover live right before the pandemic hit.
Wait, really?
Like for
West
West
Side
Side Story,
Story.
they were doing
Oh.
the revival on Broadway was like on stage, but then half of the scenes took place on a screen that was the backdrop of the set. And it was like filmed for half of it using like a cameraman live, but also some edited. I find it so funny that that type of medium was introduced in like late
months leading up.
2019, early 2020.
Yeah, it was like 1984, and then
That
West Side
too.
Story,
Yeah.
and just this evolution of film on stage is really interesting.
And now we're seeing stage on film
yeah,
pretty exclusively. It is just nuts.
It's pretty crazy. Honestly, I really wanted to see 1984. I'm bummed that I missed that. But West
we are
Side
actually seeing Reed Birney was one of the actors in 1984, and we're seeing
Oh,
a show
really?
that he's doing with his son tonight.
Yes.
Ephraim. Shout out Ephraim Birney.
I gotta say, when I saw him post that New York Times article, I was like, wait, what? Like, I literally had no idea. I was legitimately just like, okay.
Ephraim's this guy that I did DNA with. He's cool.
He's actually literally every time, because I had some friends watching it, and I was like, the scene that you gotta look out for is these two guys laughing and like joking about us potentially killing a guy. Like, oh my gosh. And all my friends were like, that was really dark. I'm like sitting here like laughing myself.
Yeah, because Ephraim is so dang funny.
Yeah.
Even
So
when he's not
funny.
trying to be.
Seriously.
He could be doing a dramatic scene and it'll just come off as funny for just for a moment.
Yeah.
Literally.
And I'm like, yes, thank you.
I have two stories about that. The first has to do with DNA, and it's in the editing room. Jacob and I were watching we took him up to the grill and we were doing X and we were doing Y, and like there's a scene, for those that didn't see it, where they like describe how they killed somebody. The take that we used, Ephraim like realizes that they fucked up, and you can watch like his face fall apart. There's one take that we did, and Liv, I don't know if you remember this, but that he just laughed through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we got to the end and he's still laughing about how funny this thing was. And it was just too scary. It was too like, we watched it and we're like, this is too much.
Yeah, we were like, I don't know if Mark is a psycho.
Yeah, I don't think he's a psychopath.
Maybe. No. If he is, he doesn't mean to be, I don't think.
Right. It's accidental.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the other, we were working on the proof of concept for Spotlight, which we've released a lot of trailers of. And there was a scene that we filmed that was like the auditions, and Ephraim had to like be off camera auditioning for us. And he would just lob the most ridiculous things at us. It was like, we were like, Ephraim, just have fun. Do whatever you want.
It was like, finish a monologue for us.
Yeah.
Just, we want to
Like,
get the end of a monologue, and the shot is our reactions to it.
There was one time that he was like, Jumanji 2, also known as Tumanji, is a film starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And I was just like, what is happening?
I'm really looking forward to seeing this play. He's in Chester Bailey at the Bennington Stage Theater.
Yeah.
In Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Really looking forward to seeing that tomorrow.
Tonight. 7:30.
You're going tonight? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's probably so good.
Live theater in person.
Facts. Like, that is honestly enough of a reason to just be like,
exactly. Yep. Exactly.
But I'm sure that would be awesome to see the two of them play off each other, though, because I know them separately as like very separate entities. So that's crazy.
I've been lucky enough to get to act with both of them, and they're both just incredible scene partners. So like, I am so excited to see this.
That's awesome. And they're fighting or something, right? Like they're
playing a doctor and a patient.
Oh, yo, that's crazy. I had no idea what the show was at all. So that's nuts.
Yeah, you want to give us like the log line?
Yeah.
Who is who? Which one's the doctor? Which one's the patient?
Ephraim's playing a young doctor, and he is the young soldier coming back from war, right?
Yeah. So the description as put on the website is in a stateside hospital at the close of World War II, a young man recovers from catastrophic injuries, or so doctors have told him. But Chester Bailey denies what's happened to him has actually happened, which is how he comes under the care of Dr. Philip Cotton. Older, wounded in his own ways, Cotton is charged with leading Chester back to reality. The journey is not what either man expected.
Wow.
Okay.
This is a one act.
Okay.
I don't think there's an intermission.
One act.
We're in it to win it.
Am I sensing themes of PTSD?
Yes, I'm feeling like we might approach that.
Some log lines are so not funny, but it's just like wounded in his own way. Like, yes, like
gotta get all the info in there.
We love that. Which, speaking of one act plays, this is like total. But this just came up for me the other day because it's like all over theater news that Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is turning into a show, and I like no lie. So let me preface this by saying all the comments were incredibly hateful and rude on these posts, saying like really terrible things, and like half of them I think are warranted, but are meaning to like kind of hit J.K. Rowling, which is honestly like valid, at least like maybe going about it in a different way, not on the show's Instagram would be helpful. But that I'm sure was like what people had as an intention for writing things like that. But some of the other stuff was just like, oh great, well now I don't have to ever see that like piece of whatever, like now I don't have to. And I was just like, oh, but the show is like so magical in 2 parts, and they switch, like, you know, obviously no spoilers because keep the magic, but like they completely changed the entire like atmosphere. Like it just is. I was so bummed when I saw that. I also was like, I'm supposed to be in this one day. Like
they're gonna have to cut a lot.
Yeah, I guess so, because I was talking with my boyfriend about it, and I was like very upset about it. I was like, this is not fair. Like whatever. Is there a reoccurring theme with me right now? Like I'm just mad about everything. But he was like reading the article, and he's like, I don't know if they can cut anything. I was like, babe, when I tell you that this show is a whole day ordeal, they will have to cut something. Like there's no way they could put this whole thing in one show when it was like, what, 6 hours maybe? Like 7 hours?
Really long.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I'm the only, you've seen it, right?
Yeah, I saw
both parts.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm the only one who hasn't seen it.
You haven't seen it? Oh.
I wish. I have the book.
Yeah.
That I got it before it came out. And I was reading it. It's a thick book.
Yeah.
So like the fact that they would put that whole dictionary on stage, impressive.
And then all the effects that they have to add onto the top of it is like in the book, it's like they appear here, and it's like, well, okay, how do you make 2 actors appear on stage?
That's exactly how I felt when I was reading it, and I almost didn't like it really when I read it, because I don't really know what it was, but maybe it was because there was just so many, like knowing it was a play and reading stage directions, and some of the stage directions were so outlandish, like how could they possibly do this on a stage? Yeah. And then seeing it is just like, okay, they do it on stage. Like they do things on stage. Like that was really what made me, but reading it, I was kind of like, I don't really like get it. I don't really understand, but it's like one of those things that I guess you have to see to really.
It's magic.
Yeah. It's an experience. It's not a play.
Yeah. It's also like, because it's Harry Potter, it's this like known, loved thing, which is like another reason why I'm disappointed in J.K. Rowling. Like, really, girl, really, you had to pull that card. Like,
I know
not hiding it.
It sucks so bad, because as a child, growing up with Harry Potter as my friend, right, like literally growing up with me, like I would see like a poster for the next movie come out, and I'd just be like, we're getting older. We are getting older, you know?
True.
And I'm at this point now in my life where I don't want to give her any of my money.
Yeah.
And it sucks, because all I ever wanted when I was a child was to be an adult, so I had my own money to spend on all of this Harry Potter.
It's like a whole, I mean, it's a world. Like this, talk about your world building. Like this is
world.
A world.
And they just opened a Harry Potter store in Manhattan.
I know.
I've heard it's like sold out daily, that it's like impossible.
I'm sure.
I want to go, but I don't want to buy anything.
I know, that's what it is. I know, and it's tricky too, because it's my friend works for Scholastic, and he is actually very upset about this too, because his whole company, like, I mean, that's who's like paying their bills, literally. Like that is the human who's paying their bills. And he was like, I mean, it's all like a known thing, but because of money and like capitalism and like all this like gross stuff that no one wants to actually like sit and talk about, like I'm pretty sure she's still making content and books, and they just, being a part of this company, it's this weird line of like, I don't want to support this, and also like you're paying me, like it just is like a very weird thing. But for me, it's more of just like the fact that she's really not like, it wasn't even like a slip up. Like she meant with intent to say something and is not trying to hide that she said that. Like,
yeah, it's just hard for me. I think the moment that I realized that she was transphobic, every problematic thing in every one of the books started becoming way more obvious to me. Mm-hmm. It was like,
give me an example of what came to your mind.
The only Asian character in the entire series being named Cho Chang. The house elves being enslaved and totally cool with it, and like the white woman has to come in and convince them that they're slaves and that she needs to save them.
Shout out Hermione.
The only queer characters ever being like in the background and kind of like, oh, they're queer, but we're not going to actually talk about that. That was my big issue with Cursed Child on stage, was that the book I don't think touches on any of that, but when I saw Cursed Child, I was like, these two characters feel like they're supposed to be together. And I know they're not going to end up together because that's not J.K. Rowling's style. They're going to end up with girls, but they're acting really like a couple right now.
And, like multiple times.
Yeah, like getting really close to each other, like looking like they want to kiss each other, but not like it was super queer coded. So yeah, it was just seeing all those things start to pop out. I was like, no, I love these books. I can't have all of them ruined because now I can see all the problematic things.
I know, and that's like, it kind of leads you to the question too of like, can we separate the art from the maker? Because I mean, especially with acting, it's like there is, for me at least, there is like, I need to be very intentional about a boundary or a separation if something is getting like a little too close, you know, like a little too, you know, something not healthy potentially. Like I just think that, I mean, a writer, it could be different, but it's so like why is everything right now coming out and like showing us in the grossest of terms right now? It's just like, I don't know, it's a little bizarre, not gonna lie.
It's Twitter's fault for existing in the first place and giving everyone on the planet Earth a platform for sharing every intimate thought that they could ever possibly have, and have everyone just gang up on each other on one platform.
I mean, Bo Burnham's talked about it. It's performance all the time. It's just perform your whole life and let everyone watch.
Yeah. Inside was crazy. Inside was so good, but also like deeply disturbing in like the best ways. Like,
it was so raw, and I was uncomfortable in those raw moments, but I knew that I was safe because Bo himself included those moments on purpose. And with him being the artist behind all of it, behind like the recording of each individual track of like instrument versus like how he directs himself and how he wants to convey these songs visually. Like, I can imagine it being incredibly frustrating, wearing all the hats at the same time, being so conscious of how he's being perceived 100% of the time, and get like wanting to nail it like on the head with every millisecond of screen time. I've got so much respect for him.
Yeah.
It gave me chills the first time I saw it.
Yeah, I've seen
You
it
know?
twice now, and it hit me both times.
Yeah. As he's like turning 32, like I'm sure that's a whole other
Layer, yeah.
But also, like,
layer that's crazy,
did he film that scene once?
right?
Or did he black out his curtains, reset the alarm clock, and go for another take?
True.
How much of what we saw
was real,
and how much of it was him making a point about a character that he could be trying to portray for a larger point?
Yeah. It's literally a performance. Like, yeah. That's what's even crazy too, because it's such like a life thing and also an art thing. Is like,
Yeah.
when you think someone is being vulnerable, you're never like 100% sure though, which is so nuts. And he gives like so many crazy commentary on so many things. Like celebrity culture has just been like very strange to me recently too. Like just
Yeah.
everything on social media is completely out in the open. I mean, exactly like you were saying, you can put everything out that you want to, and it makes you feel like you're friends with people when you're not. Like, it's weird.
Totally.
Everything is so curated. It's so carefully constructed. Like Jacob and I were talking about this in relation to the celebrity culture. There were photos taken of Tom Holland and Zendaya together. Yeah. And it's like, okay, are they together? Are they taking photos like that because they know the paparazzi are watching them and they're trying to hype their new movie? Are they fucking with people? Like, it's all just, celebrity culture has become so curated. I mean, it always has been, but now that there's such a direct source to it,
I know,
like what's real and what's not, and people feel like they're friends with celebrities now.
Yeah, it's tricky. Because I also find myself slipping up and saying something like, oh yeah, my friend is doing this thing, and I say my friend, but I don't mean my friend. I mean this person who I follow, who I maybe have a mutual friend with, or like I've met them once and that's why I followed them, but we're not friends. They don't know my life. Like,
right.
But
oh my God, that's so facts. Like,
because I'm a follower and I have the access to their life on Twitter, their thoughts on Instagram, their face. I'm like, oh yeah, I know what they're doing. Oh yeah, the other day they were doing this, and it's not my friend.
Yeah,
it's just this person.
But like, someone could be saying that about you though too. Like, oh yeah, my friend is like doing this thing right now. But I mean, we have that same freedom too, where it's like, I get to pick what you see of me or what you hear from me. It is strange that now we're all kind of like personal curators of like our, I don't know, Instagram is such like a magazine to me almost, because like it just occurred to me the other day that your highlights, like that you can save, and then like reels, like this is literally your highlight reel, like mind blown. It just is, and that's exactly what it is. That is exactly what it is.
Do you remember when stories were introduced? Like, first on Snapchat, just like create a story of your day. Like, I was just like, brilliant, genius. Like, I can broadcast it to everyone. Oh, like,
and it went from being like, I'm gonna send Snapchats to all my friends of me like doing something silly, to like, oh, I'm just gonna post this. It's just like, this is a random moment that I'm having right now that I'm gonna invite the world into.
And as a society, we're all learning together what is appropriate to share, what these rules are for social media, because they're constantly changing too.
Always changing.
Like, how personal do you get?
Right.
It's also just like the level of anonymity that we have on social media. I remember the first time that we got like subs thrown at us, like someone saying something mean about us, that I was like, oh, like people are just gonna openly talk shit, and that's social media.
Yeah.
I think people a lot of times forget with the separation of the screen that like there is another human being that you're talking to. So like when I scroll through like TikTok or Twitter and I see people being like, I hope you fucking die, it's like, whoa, like, you're talking to a person.
Like, Yeah, because there's that wall, right? Like there's that like it doesn't feel like you're talking to a person, so I can be really brave and do whatever I want. But I like, because I have younger sisters, particularly one who's like at the peak of all of this like new stuff right now. Like she's 17.
Okay,
It's
Gen Z pinnacle.
like which this is another, I can't with the generation because apparently I'm Gen Z
I
too.
know.
I don't understand. Anyway,
Yeah.
but it's so crazy because there is this like freedom with having these platforms that's just like, wow, we can do or say whatever we want, like and it can be used for good. We've seen that, I think. Like we've seen that it can really be used for good. I don't know, maybe it's because it was so ingrained in me like growing up that like don't share like photos of you holding a red Solo cup, like jobs will see this, colleges will see this, like don't post something that you wouldn't want so and so, just like things like that. I feel like that's gone out the window a little bit and people are straight up posting wild things, and a part of me is like, oh god, like I don't want this to ruin your life, like I don't want you to go down this terrible black hole. Not like with anyone in particular, but just like I feel like because people who are older don't really understand this thing that we have here and kids do.
Yeah.
It's like older people are scared of it almost, so they're kind of like, yeah, take the reins, like do with it what you want a little bit, but then it's making me nervous that since no one knows how to really handle it, there aren't any rules, not necessarily that there should be, but there's no kind of like self boundary with this platform, that it's like, I don't want this to end up ruining you in some sort of way because someone sees something that you did and now could think less of you. Not that that's your problem, but it could affect you in some ways.
100%.
Well, they also see what's working for other people and how other people are going viral or getting attention or getting audiences. Like, how do you get people to watch? Oh, you post yourself doing some outrageous shit that no one else has done before, or like you post yourself doing things that other people who are getting attention are doing.
And a lot of that ends up being like sexualization or like stuff like that. So we're seeing like 15-year-olds on TikTok doing these like really sexual dances that are like, you're a minor. Like there are adults commenting on these posts being like, this is so hot, and you're a minor.
And they're using the sound, which has explicit lyrics, and the sound is going viral, so like you gotta hop on the trend, but it's not appropriate.
Like, oh god.
Like, also another point is that like these people that kids are idolizing, they feel inaccessible. Like the idea of them is separated from who they are.
They're an idea, not a person.
They're an idea, not a person. Like, let's say like under 10,000 followers, like you're a person, and over 10,000 followers, you're an influencer. Let's just say, okay? Let's just say for the sake of argument. But like people like see that K or that M in the followers and they think that they can comment whatever because they're just one out of 10,000 or a million, right? And like, so they think that they won't get seen, or they think that they are not in a minority because they have like so many. It's hard.
And that I think is now bleeding into the culture that was groupies, that was like people waiting for you at the end of your show to get your autograph, is now like Instagram comments. Now it's like influencers, actors, all these people on Instagram and Twitter are feeling this obligation to like respond to fans. Because if you don't, you're like, oh, you think you're above it all. You think you're better than all of us. So like you feel this obligation to like reach out to everybody. But if you don't reach out to everybody, it's like you start getting those comments that are like, I'm never going to get a reply from Olivia Grady. I bet Olivia Grady doesn't even read her comments. She probably doesn't even respond. It's like people guilting celebrities into responding to comments so they can feel like friends. I've had people, I am a very, very like low level actor in terms of like my clout in the industry. And I've had people who like DM me and are like, we should be friends. Like, you're so cool. And I'm like, you don't know anything about me. You know what I have put online. And that is so carefully curated as like a performer in the industry of like, I'm with my friends today. Like that's so basic of what I'm doing versus what my life actually is, that it's so impossible to know people.
Yeah, and I think too, it's like people want to show like stuff that looks pretty and like and feels good to watch, or like will make you laugh, or will make, you know, like granted, there, I think we're starting to get into a point where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you, because not everything is always like this, which respect, but that never gets as much attention as, the aesthetically pleasing content,
How much of that is algorithm and how much of that is society?
Right,
exactly, which that's another thing too, like the algorithm, I don't even understand, literally, like it's so strange.
I remember when Vine was a thing, right? And Vine was just about like, let's do something funny and make some people laugh. And then it became like, oh, let's become Vine influencers. And now that's moved to TikTok, where I'm seeing people that I follow because like I find them funny, posting things that are like, I've decided I'm not going to post on TikTok anymore because the algorithm is killing my views. And if I'm going to do that, and it's like, what is this hustle culture around everything we do? Make a TikTok because you like TikToks.
Right.
It's these people, there are so many people that are now like making TikTok their job. Like, oh, my 9 to 5 is I work on TikTok. I don't like it, but it's what I do. It's like, well, why are you doing it?
Yeah, I have to say, I do kind of appreciate TikTok a little bit more, because it's very like user friendly and very much like gives you content that you want to see, type of thing.
Yeah.
And like it lets any old random Joe kind of, have an audience. Like it's not so exclusive, I think, but
they're super good about that. Their algorithm is super good at getting people hooked. Because I remember I had been off TikTok for a really long time, and then I made like 2 TikToks in a row. And so I think TikTok realized like, oh, he's trying to make content. And so the second TikTok I made like went semi-viral. And I was like, oh, I want to make more TikToks. And I've never hit that amount of views again.
Yeah.
It's that like, we want to get you invested, so you chase the high. So you chase that like,
that instant gratification.
Yeah, that like, I've gotten some success, I want more.
Right. It's true. Yeah, it's social media is very, very strange. But hustle, I've been like, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I don't really buy hustle culture anymore, which I was
so into it.
So into it. Like very much so. And
I was sending him like Gary V videos like every day about like, you gotta grind, you gotta.
I love Gary V, but yes, like exactly.
Yeah.
I think for me though, it's knowing like where it's coming from, right? Like having the intention of like why I'm gonna act a certain way. And I totally was hustling because I was desperate. And like I had to take a step back and be like, girl, like you're Olivia freaking Grady. Like I'm not desperate here. Okay. Like, no. Like I was just having this conversation yesterday saying like, at the end of the day, like I know what I do. I know what I can do. I know what I'm capable of doing. And I have never doubted for a second that it will happen or like not happen, like, of course. But I do think there's something to be said that like when you're constantly pushing and constantly like literally beating a dead horse, it's like this is just exhausting and you get burnt out. And like we're not desperate. We are not
good for you.
People. No. Yeah. But it's knowing that line, I think, which is super important, of like why you're acting a certain way rather than just like doing something because you think you should, or
right,
whatever that looks like.
Speaking of creating art because you're passionate about it, and not because you feel like you have to, you're working with us on.
Look at this transition.
Because I know I said we were going to do housekeeping at the beginning of this podcast, and we're probably like halfway through at this point, or almost done. Honestly, we're 38 minutes in and we're doing housekeeping. In terms of housekeeping, we did a reading on Saturday. It went really well. We're very happy with it. We're working on things for September for big releases. That's really housekeeping. It's very basic. But the thing that I really wanted to housekeep about and kind of like have been excited to announce and excited to bring you on the show about, Liv, is this project that we're doing together.
Yeah, we are doing a little project together, aren't we?
You want to talk a little bit about it? Just like what you want to share about either or both, the project itself, and then just like your process in kind of putting it together, coming up with it, creation.
Yeah, I sort of spoke to Logan about this maybe over a year ago now. We were totally like in quarantine, but for some reason that span of time was really cool for me for some reason. I don't know. There was like a solid like 2 months. That sounds like so much time, and
So
every day
little.
was literally like the same. I just felt like I was taking like a ton of classes. There were so many great free resources available to actors, like things that I probably would not have done if it was, you know, any other random time.
Right.
I just had so many ideas, like, and wanting to be creative. And I had this idea stuck in my head about like kind of the concept of loneliness and how there's kind of no difference between if you're lonely and if you're feeling lonely, because even if you're feeling lonely, like your brain is not going to convince you that you're not otherwise. So that was kind of like a thing that I was sitting with, and just like the idea of anyone leaving your life who had such like a big kind of handprint on your heart, it's like a really difficult thing regardless of who it is. And like just that idea of like now that they're gone, it's like I'm lonely. Like that's a terrifying thought and like a terrifying feeling to feel.
Yeah.
But I started writing, I just like had this idea in my head, and I kind of was like sending voice memos, like talking about it on my phone, and Logan and I got to talking. I don't even know how.
Before you sent me the voice memos,
Yeah.
you had posted, speaking of posting on social media, you
Oh,
posted a minute-long video on Instagram that I just like, I saw it and was like, this is the opening shot of a movie. I don't know what the movie's about, but like I love this framing and I love the colors and the feeling and the tone, and like this is a shot. I don't know what it is. Liv, do you want to make a movie?
and I was like, nah, funny you should say that. I don't, just like also the like I have another Instagram account called The Quiet Catalog, and it's like,
It's great.
thanks. It's let me preface this by saying too, I have been writing a lot recently, and I didn't feel particularly comfortable in that medium because that's not my medium, like my typical route of choice. I feel very confident in my acting abilities, but writing was just something that I like doing, you know, and kind of felt weird almost promoting it because I was like, yeah, but I'm not a writer. Like, I'm not like a writer. I am an actor who writes, like, type of thing. And so, kind of like that was getting in my head a little bit. But I just have been really into like the moments of quiet and like the in between moments of life, because that's really what makes up life. And it's kind of separated between the highs and the lows, but mostly we're at this like in between place. So I was kind of like obsessed with the idea of like quiet and being lonely and like these in betweens. And then I posted that video, and I kind of had been wanting to do more video content, but I felt like almost weird about that too, because with Instagram, it's so much like, this is me. This is a thing that I'm posting, rather like when you're acting. I feel much more brave being able to stand up doing like saying somebody else's words, even though they kind of morph into mine. It's like, you know, there's
It's
that
vulnerable sharing your own words.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
it is so vulnerable. But I shared that video, and it like did well. I don't even know what that means. I got like a lot of support from people who I love. And Logan commented on it and was like, oh my gosh, this looks like this could be a film. And I was like, that's funny. We should probably talk about that because I have had an idea in my head for a very long time. And you were like, cool. So I sent you like this 10-minute long voice memo while I was going on one of my like crazy walks. I'm literally insane, guys. But I like I was like walking, I'm like, okay, Logan, so here's this thing, and I'm like talking to him on voice memo, and I send it over, and like an hour goes by, and he's like, dude, I'm like, what are you doing? I'm just like, I don't even know, man. I'm getting crazy. But he was like, yeah, like just, and I have to say, like, props to you and thank you very much. I'm so grateful because this is just not a thing that I would have done on my own, because I just would not have pushed myself in that kind of degree, but he was definitely like, you should write this thing, like Liv, write this thing, do the thing. Even it like dumbing it down for me even too. He's like literally like write a list, like write like bullet points, just like give something so that it's down on paper. I was like, you're so right. And he took it and created like a beautiful, in a fancy schmancy screenwriting program, like an actual script. And it was very cool. It was very cool. But yeah, we're gonna maybe make a short film. Yeah. That's the thing that we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's that. But I'm pretty proud of it. It is definitely a very scary thing though, because it feels very personal.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to give props right back to you because, like, yeah, sure, I put it in the fancy screenwriting program, but Liv like wrote the movie. It was just written as like bullet points of every single shot in the entire film. And I was like, I see the whole thing, so I'm just going to write what Liv sent me. And if there's anything that needs to change, we'll change it. And I sent it to Liv, and you were just like, yeah, this is it. Like, there's one or two like little changes that we should look at, but this is the movie as I pictured it. And I was like, awesome. We have a script, and now we're prepping for locations, and we're talking to crew, and we're putting a thing together to like make a movie.
It's super
I'm like sweating talking about it. Oh man. Yeah.
And I think because it's something that we've never done before, but it's something that I'm excited about going forward. I think this might end up potentially being Blackwolves' first festival movie. This might be the first movie that we don't just like post on YouTube or Instagram and are just like, let's submit this places and see if we can run with it. Because like the first time Liv voice memoed me, like, yeah, it took me an hour because it was a 3 or 4 minute voice memo to listen to. But I remember being like, you got to give me a little time. I'll get to it, I promise. And then I put my earbuds in and I listened to this entire description, and I was like, this is the coolest, like, most intriguing idea I've heard in a while. And like, this is the kind of movie that I see having legs. Like, we've created a couple things that were like passion projects that I was really like, oh, this is a cool movie and we did this and I'm happy with it. This was the first thing that I read of ours that I was like, okay, this is a short film. This is a short film that like I would submit to like the Tribeca Film Festival or like Sundance or like things that are a big deal, because it's like, I see this as the kind of movie that gets into those festivals, the kind of like really deep storytelling that like festivals are interested in, versus a lot of what we did was like, oh, what's it like to grow up? What's it like to like be a teenager? Which is like not really something that festivals grab onto. I think this movie that we're doing with Liv is such a kind of universal story about just like the year that we've been through and like what it means to feel alone, even when you have people around you who are like there with you. Like, it's something that I've wanted to explore in the past. I wrote a movie sort of touching on the same topic, but I just thought that Liv did it so much better than I did that I was just like, this is it. This is what I want. And this is what I think we should be doing. And I was just really glad. I showed the script to Jacob the first time and he was like, yes.
Yeah, of course.
God, Jacob.
I feel like everyone's gonna, if anyone reads the script, they're gonna be like, yes. And if everyone sees this short when it's done, they're gonna be like, yes.
Yes.
I mean, it is crazy because I think I just feel like there's a ton of power in silence. Like, I've always felt that way in performance, and especially on theater. It's just like so haunting to have moments of silence, and I feel like people shy away from it a little bit, which is fair. It's not a particularly comfy thing to sit in, but yeah, I don't know. There's really barely any dialogue in this film because I wanted to see if maybe you could hear, the thoughts without them being there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just think that's so cool. I also just think like any woman or girl like sitting in silence is not really a typical thing that we see too much of. I'm curious to see if it's intriguing to people or interesting to people for sure.
Yeah, speaking of like a woman sitting in silence, we as Blackwolves have done a lot of things that were like male main characters. So to have like female led, female written, female directed is going to be a really, really awesome thing for us to get to do. I like the idea of expanding and getting to work with new people and just give people who haven't necessarily been given the opportunity to let their art like shine that kind of chance. So I'm thrilled that you wanted to do this with us.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you have been so great, and honestly, like I trust both of your artistic opinions a ton, and I'm definitely like my work is not done in a lot of other ways, right? Like I'm she's a white woman, you know, like there's a ton of things that I too am like we have our work cut out for us. It's making space and making room and making positions for people who I can like pass the torch on to, you know. It's like
Yeah.
it's so important, and I don't take that position lightly either. You know, like it's one thing if something is women, you know, run and women written, but it's like, yeah, is it like woman of color written though? Like, is it like a Black woman written? Like, you know, there's a ton of things too that it's just like we have so much to do, you know. It's a crazy world that we're in right now, and I'm glad conversations are being had, but not nearly as much as being done as
Needs to be.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's what makes you a great Black Wolf. Like, yeah, Jacob and I started Black Wolves because we wanted to like create things on our own, but it very quickly evolved into like, how do we give other people opportunities to like be a part of things that we're passionate about? And I think that's what like drew us to a lot of the people that we work with, is that feeling of like, I want to be a part of giving other people opportunities. And I love that so much.
It's so important, and that's what's so great honestly about you guys and your openness to having conversations like this too. It's dope. It's really necessary, and we need people like you know, we need people like that. It's so true. I mean, this is a crazy, very money oriented industry, very like commercial oriented, and we gotta figure out how to get shit done, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not even just our industry, it's like our country, it's becoming the world, like that.
We've been talking about it like all episode with influencers and all of that.
And also to think that this film sparked from, like, as you said, Liv, like content, like video content.
Yeah.
Just the idea of art as content, I feel like it almost like takes away from the art calling it content, because it makes me feel like it's almost like a placeholder, like I've got to update the feed, so what's the next square gonna be, you know, like I need a new square, my grid is getting stale, and if I don't get a new square by the end of the month, like people aren't going to want to see what's new when it's new.
Or the algorithm is gonna just like knock you down.
It's so crazy that you say that, because the other day I was talking to my boyfriend, and I said, I was like, I can't even believe I said this. I was like, I just don't want to be the seller anymore. I want to be the product. And he was like, babe, you just called yourself a product. Like,
because that's what so many people in our industry are saying now.
Yes, exactly. And I was like, yeah, I know, but also like that's the game. Like that's the game of it. And it just was so crazy.
That's the hustle culture that we're all like honestly trying to escape, but also can't escape, because it's just
it's part of the industry now.
It's just what you have to do, is like, if you want to get somewhere, you got to do something and you got to work. And so even if you're not feeling inspired, even if you're sitting alone, depressed and lonely, you feel this need to catch up or to keep up or like churn something out.
I found
keeping relevant bit.
I found that dichotomy between like, I'm depressed, so I don't want to do anything, but because I'm not doing anything, I feel even more depressed because I feel like I'm wasting time. And so it's like that vicious cycle of like, well, I can't get anything done, but I have to get something done.
Yeah,
it's true. I do think there is a bit of hope though, with like, we're becoming aware of it, and being self-aware is the most important bit. And if there's a way that we can figure out how to respect our boundaries and respect, you know, what our body needs, what our mind needs, what our soul needs.
Yeah.
Maybe we needed this kind of pause to just become reacquainted with self again, almost.
For sure.
I definitely agree that we all need a pause. The thing that I'm like concerned about is what comes next, you know?
Yes.
If we're all taking a moment to reflect on how things must change, how do we all agree on what that is and what form does that take? And like, we find the thing that we want to acknowledge, but how do we stop acknowledging it and change it?
Right.
We're in this like phase of acknowledgement where everyone is like, oh, well, I'm thinking about this and I'm gonna make it known that I'm thinking about this. Like I should make a comment about this. How do we get to a place where those comments aren't necessary anymore?
How do we get to a place where it's not just commenting?
Yeah.
I've noticed that a lot on my Instagram. It's like the story activist, the like, I'm gonna post about every issue that's happening on my story, and like there is this very performative activism that's happening now.
Where you must post something to be like, this is where I stand, people. All my followers, just so you know, I'm posting this one because this is where I stand on the topic. And
you could be like behind the scenes donating thousands of dollars to organizations, but if you don't post about something on Instagram, you're going to see a post that's like, just so you know, I see all my followers who aren't talking about this thing. Like, I know who you are. And it's like, when did we become a culture that was like, you have to stand on your rooftop and scream how you feel about everything?
Where do you stand?
We went from you're allowed to perform your whole life, so go perform your whole life, to you have to perform your whole life, because if you don't, and we don't know where you stand, you're a bystander. It's gone from like, here's a stage, perform, to if you're not on stage, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. I do think there is validity to talking about it, and, you know, but I do think that there becomes that line of like, do you even know what you're talking about? Are you sharing somebody else's opinion right now that you just saw and kind of put into your own words, but aren't really understanding what the actual issue is?
Right.
Are you doing things behind the scenes? Are you talking to your own family members and friends? Like, you know, it does become this like strange thing of, yeah, people don't need to know what you're doing, but you need to be doing it, you know, like, don't just not be doing it. Like, the little infographics are not the period, you know, that is not the end of the sentence. That's
like a semicolon.
That's literally like, I mean, some of those aren't even correct information. It's like, it's so messy, and not in a good way. It's just like very, I don't know how that started happening, like where, and I think it started it with good intention of like, here is a very condensed amount of information that people can easily digest and get what's going on. But now that people know that that's like how people are getting their information, like even more so than the news, because what can actually be trusted and what can actually not have like a bias put behind it. I mean, like, my sister wanted to be a journalist for the longest time and went to school and was like, I can't get behind some of these things. Like,
like, I can't join that world. It's
dangerous. It's like really grimy and like kind of gross. Like the way it becomes almost like paparazzi-esque, even though like people, I'm sure everyone joined it in order to like spread truth and, you know, things like that and correct information. But now it's like, what's even, that's why it makes me a little like, don't necessarily talk about something unless you have straight up like
done the research
and like, you know, are doing the behind the scenes work. It's not a show, never a show. Nothing ever gets put on like without the behind the scenes work ever.
What is that behind the scenes behind everything?
Right.
Because there is behind the scenes behind everything. Like
behind everything.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
It's nuts.
And sometimes also, it's not cute behind the scenes either.
Yeah.
Like,
also to think that like these infographics and posts and just the realm of things going viral, that they are also within bubbles, like based on location, based on your views, based on your circle. I feel like my Instagram is like so much different than someone in California's Instagram. And just the way that we all keep each other in check is, I'm going to say the same across the country, but it's different messages. Like the way that we're doing it is the same, but I feel like people are getting different messages.
I also feel like there's, especially in our generation, there's become this like policing of people that you know. Like kind of in the generation right before ours, there are like activists who are like fighting for change and like the protests and the like legislation and like really doing that. And then there's the people in our generation that are pretty much exclusively just like existing on social media and spaces to like judge other people for not saying enough or for saying the wrong thing or like looking for a chance to like pounce almost. And it's this like policing of like, if you're not doing enough for me, then I'm going to call you out on it, that I'm like a little like almost disturbed by, because it's like, I wish that there was more of the in the street activism. I have friends who are like, don't post very many of those infographics, but who go to every protest and like maybe don't share like everything on their social media, but I know that they're like doing the work. It's like, it's such a bizarre world now.
Yeah, it is. And again, it's like everything has this like kind of double side of a coin. It's like, okay, policing should not be a thing, but also if someone is specifically like hurting or not, like, you know, then it's like, okay, you're my friend, like we need to have a conversation about this. Like this is not cool for the things that you're saying. But it's also, it's, yeah, I don't know. I do think there is power in saying, I don't know, guys. Like, I don't know about this thing. And before I become the forefront and stand in the spotlight to do this thing, like, I want to make sure that I am educated and I know exactly what is happening before I am throwing my opinion out. Like, you don't have to always be the center of attention. Like, sometimes you really should not be at all. Like, it's strange, but of course, like with the I don't know has to come the, and here's what I'm going to do to change that so that I do know, you know.
100%.
It's nuts. It's nuts.
It is. This has been just an incredible conversation, Liv. It's so amazing to get to talk to you again. As we are approaching our running low on time, because we talked about it earlier, the idea of wanting to like promote different people's art and wanting to put some things out there. There are some movies that came out this week that I want to just touch on. And then I would love to talk to both of you about the things that you've been watching this week and things that you think other people should check out. Yes. So very quickly, because we are approaching the like hour mark on this podcast, there are a couple things to talk about that came out this week. We have a Cinderella story, Starstruck, which is like the fifth A Cinderella story since the Selena Gomez one way back in the day. Directed and written by Michelle Johnson, who is a female director-screenwriter. She wrote the other like 4 Cinderella stories, and I think she produced the one with Selena Gomez. Then we also have Zola, which I'm super excited about. It's based on a Twitter thread that like was out, I think it was like 2018, about this stripper who like went to Florida with someone she had just met and like got involved in like drugs and prostitution, and it's this crazy story. But it was co-written by Jeremy O'Harris and Janixa Bravo, and directed by Janixa Bravo. Jeremy O'Harris, I know, Liv, you know, from Slave Play. So the two of them are incredible artists. Black director, Black writing duo. Very excited for that.
Also, shout out Nicholas Braun. I love that actor.
Yes, he's so good. In terms of documentary, I'm not sure if it's CNN or HBO, but there's a documentary coming out called Summer of Soul, or When the Revolution Could Not Be Televised, which is about the 1989 Harlem Cultural Festival, which was completely filmed with like all these amazing acts. And then someone took all the footage and just like put it in storage. And it was never televised and never shown to everybody. But Questlove of The Roots got all the footage and like put it together and got all the artists and like did this entire documentary about that period.
Love Questlove.
We also have part 1 of Fear Street, called Fear Street Part 1, 1994, which is a 3 movies for Netflix, based on the books by R.L. Stine, written and directed by Lee Janiak. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your last name, but she is a female director and female writer, doing 3 movies in a row for Netflix, which I think is super cool. I also think it's cool to just do like a 3-part movie series. Like, oh, we can't fit everything into one movie. Let's just make 3 of them.
That's awesome.
And it's awesome in the way that it's not like setting a sequel bait.
Yeah, it's like we've planned that there are going to be 3 parts and they are going to move into each other in one fluid story. Don't expect an ending to part 1. We're not going to end there. There's going to be a lead in. I like that. I do respect it a lot. And I respect that they finished all of it before they even released the first one. There's a bunch of other movies coming out this week. They're all in the description below. So if you want to check those out, feel free.
I'm going to check them out.
Yeah. Those are the movies coming out that we haven't gotten to see. So Jacob, what kind of content might you be consuming this week?
I've been watching Loki on Disney Plus.
Which I've heard is great.
It's great. You gotta check it out.
Heard episode 4 was pretty brutal.
It was brutal. Yeah, it's going in a new direction. Like the show pivoted.
Nice.
Which I'm excited about. There's like, I think there's 4 more episodes.
Yeah.
So like the next 4 are gonna be crazy. Yeah, if you're a Marvel fan, check that out.
I want to be, so yes.
Yeah. Oh, Tom Hiddleston is just such an amazing actor.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
We've been watching Lupin.
Yep.
On
Netflix.
French
heist show.
Yeah.
Very good.
Iconic.
Yeah.
Iconic. So good. We just finished part 1 and we didn't realize it. We like finished part 1 and we're like, oh, there's another episode. And I looked at it and it was like part 2, episode 1. And I was like, that was the end of the first season?
I also I watched Luca. I don't know if I said that last week. But
I think you might have, but even if you did, it's
no, I don't think so. I've heard great things about that one.
It's good. It's really good. It feels a little like Finding Nemo in the beginning, but you'll get past it. It's like calamari me by your name. It's so good.
Calamari me by your name.
Literally, I saw Finding Nemo in a movie theater. Can we just like sit with that for a second?
Yes.
That's the first movie I saw in a theater.
I'm pretty sure same. Same.
Yeah. Good times. Good times.
I
think that's all for my content I've been consuming this week. What about you, Liv?
Honestly, I've been on I'm always on a reading kick, but I'm on a reading kick at the moment, and I just finished Buy Yourself the Fucking Lilies by one of the like execs of Key and Peele, which is kind of cool, but her name is Tara Schuster. That was an awesome book. And then speaking of Questlove, I love his book. I'm pretty sure it's like The Creative Quest or something like that. It's really good too. There's like, he has a ton of little prompts that you can kind of sit with, and he has like these like couple second meditations where he's just like, ah, yes, like what comes up for you in these like couple seconds when you like, it's just awesome. But yeah, Creative Quest is the name of it. That's an awesome book.
Ooh, I wonder if it's an audio book.
That'd be lovely to listen to.
Yeah.
It's really good. And also Soul, iconic. I don't know why I'm consuming a lot of content that's like, life is special and short and precious and you should enjoy it now. And I'm like, you're right, you're so right.
Coming out of a pandemic, I wonder why you would feel that way, Liv.
Gulp. Yeah, that. Honestly, I've never seen Parks and Rec before, and I'm in the process of watching it, and I got a little bit of the like, oh, if you've seen The Office first, you're not gonna like Parks and Rec. So that's why I wasn't watching it for a very long time, but now I am, and I'm very much enjoying it. Oh, and the newest Conjuring movie with Purchase's very own Sarah Catherine, my sophomore year RA, shout out. She killed it. I was so good. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I love a good horror movie moment.
Same.
I I don't know why, for some reason, it makes me not anxious and it gets me out of my own anxious brain for some reason. So
Good.
horror all the way. Yeah, I rewatched the 2 It movies too.
Ooh, so good.
Good. Someone's got
I
HBO
loved the
Max.
second one. Like, not gonna lie, I heard a lot of people loved the first one and didn't like the second one. I loved both of them.
Same.
Oh,
Bill
yeah.
Hader all day.
Bill Hader. Oh, so good.
I like forgot the ending too, and it killed me all over again. Like, I just Bill Hader is so good.
Bill fucking Hader.
I gotta rewatch that movie now.
You like, literally, it's so good. It's so good. And that whole cast I thought was so great. And I thought they did a great job of like enhancing the kids' performance too.
Definitely.
Like,
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome. So honestly, I need to get back on my TV and movie swing.
James
But
McAvoy's in that too, right?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, he is.
Jessica Chastain, like, what is happening? Literally,
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I don't know what all their names are off the top of my head, but they all brought it and we're a really good team.
Totally.
Also follow Rachel Cargill on Instagram. She's like this awesome writer, activist, has a bunch of great little captions that she writes. I think she's primarily a writer, but I ended up happening upon her stuff, and she has this great program about doing the work too when it comes to like unlearning your habits of racism that's ingrained, and
Right. Great.
she's awesome. She's very cool. Yeah, that's it.
Logan, anything?
Yeah, I have a couple things. I've been listening to an older album, not like older, but like earlier this year. Chloe Moriando, who I found on TikTok, released an album called Blood Bunny. I particularly really like I Want to Be With You, which is track 5, and What If It Doesn't End Well, which is track 13. I think they're both really, really good. Along with that, Tyler, the Creator, came out with a new album called Call Me If You Get Lost. Really amazing album. In terms of TV, I've been watching Lupin. I finished Ted Lasso with my mom and immediately restarted it because it's just that kind of show. It just brings me so much joy. Even if I know what's going to happen, I'm still laughing at every joke. And then I started watching Liv. I think you might like this. The AMC series Kevin Can Fuck Himself, which is a drama. The show is a drama. I'm just putting it out there. It's a drama. It is based on the trope of the sitcom wife, the woman who's always doting on her very schlubby, not great husband, kind of based on like Kevin Can Wait, King of Queens, Everyone Loves Raymond, that kind of character. And so it starts out as a multicam sitcom, and the moment the wife leaves the room, it becomes a single cam drama. So it's like whenever Kevin isn't around, we're in a single cam drama about this woman's life. And it's like, take all the things that a sitcom dad says, like how he never pays attention to his wife. He always asks her, like, tell my friend what to get you for our anniversary and I'll get it for you. Like, he's not caring. He doesn't care about their furniture. And like put that in a real person, and it goes from, haha, he's so silly, to, oh, he's kind of abusive and awful. And like her life is terrible, but like she has no way out of it because this is her life. Like, he's all she has and he's not growing up. So how do you deal with being 35 and being married to someone who still acts like they're 18 and like is fine working at the cable company and playing beer pong for the rest of their life? Like, it's a really good show. I think Robin Lord Taylor is also on it from Gotham, who I absolutely adore.
That's crazy. Oh my God. I've never heard of this.
The show stars Annie Murphy, who you would know. She played Alexis Rose on Schitt's Creek.
Yeah.
Super funny, but she's so good at doing the drama of the show that it gets so dark. Really love it. I think AMC released the first 2 episodes on YouTube just for free for anybody to watch. So I watched it there and I just like fell in love with it, and I'm so down to watch the rest of the season. That's in general what I've consumed this week. Yeah, trying to watch new movies. I really want to see Zola because it's A24, and I think Jeremy O. Harris is a really incredible writer, and just the cast of that movie is just like fire. So I'm super excited to see that. But yeah, that's what I've consumed this week. Yay! Awesome. Liv, thank you so much for doing this with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
You can find Olivia, of course, on Instagram. We will plug both of the accounts that you can follow her at below. Keep an eye out for the short that we're working on. There will be tons of behind the scenes and just like the movie in general when it comes out. But until then, my name is Logan Riley Bruner.
I am Jacob Wade.
I'm Olivia Grady.
Thank you so much for watching the Packcast. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.